Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone in today's class for the first intermediate grade. Our textbook is Super Goal 2 and today we will cover Unit What Did You Do Last Week? Listening and Pronunciation. This lesson will be presented by me, teacher Mazana Harbi, and the sign language by Mr. Salih Al-Ajan. So let's begin. Our objectives in today's lesson, we hope that at the end of this lesson you will be able to find specific information after listening to an audio material and also produce the different ED sound at the end of regular verbs. Before we do this, let's make quick revision on our last lesson. Last lesson we introduced to the simple past tense, and we have learned that when we're talking about something happened in the past, we only need to change the verb into its past form. And no matter what the subject pronoun is, so whether we're using the subject pronoun for singular or for plural, no matter what the subject pronoun is, we only need to add ed to a verb to change it into the past. Not only this, but also we can add a time expression to the sentence also as another indication of the past. For example, I worked yesterday. I worked yesterday. So here we can see that worked is in the past, a verb in the past, because here we added ed. And also yesterday as a time expression indicates that something happened in the past. Also, if you want to use or we're talking about something happened in the past, but using the negative form, so we can add did not. So here, for example, we can say, I didn't work yesterday. And I said that last time, you should pay attention that when we use did not or the auxiliary verb did in the past, so the verb that comes after it should be used in its regular form. So you don't have to change it into the past as well. And also add a time expression like yesterday. So this is about sentences. As about the questions and how can you make questions in the past. So as we said, you use the auxiliary verb did at the beginning of a question. So again, no matter what the subject pronoun is, we use did with all of them. So did I or did she or did we work yesterday? So the same also here, the same thing goes for questions. So whether in a negative sentence or in question, when we use did, the verb that comes in the same sentence or the same question that comes after did, we use it in its regular form. So here we don't have to add ed or any changes to this verb. And also it helps that when we are using a time expression like yesterday. So did you work yesterday? Did you work yesterday? Of course, the answer will be in two options. Either you'd say, yes, I did, or no, I did not. Yes, I did, or no, I did not. So this is how can we make questions in the past tense. And also we have talked about the regular past tense forms. And I said that the regular past tense form, we add ed to the most of the verbs. So most of them, we add to them ed if we want to use them in the past. So for example, work, we added to it ed and it became worked. So also for the verbs that endings in e, we add to it only d. So here we don't have to write another e. For example, live, ends with e, so here we add d, it will be lived. And also we said that for those verbs that ends in consonant plus y, we change it into I and we add d, ed as we did with the other verbs. For example, study, here we have changed the y into an I and then we added ed as we have did with work. So this is how can we use the regular forms of the past tense. And as I said, most of these verbs we add to it ed. The another form we have, which is the irregular past tense verb. So here we said, and I hope that from last time you have the chance to go on your books and see the list on page 83 about these irregular verbs. So last time we talked about that these verbs that can be used also that they have their own form of past tense. For example, buy. This is a verb in the present, but if you want to use it in the past, then you will change or you will say another form, which is bought. The same goes for come. The other form is came, do, did. And also drink, drank, drive, drove, eat, ate, get up, got up, give, gave, go, went, have, had, read, read, see, saw, sleep, slept, swim, swam, take, and took. And not only this, we said that, as you can see here, that one of these verbs, which is read, is the same form, the same letters, whether we use it in the present or in the past. The only difference we can notice here, we said last time, which is the pronunciation. How do we pronounce this verb? And we said that if we want to pronounce it in the present, we would say read, but in the past we would say read. So this is the only difference about this verb. And last thing we have been introduced to in the explaining this grammar, which is the time expressions. We said that it helps sometimes when we use time expression, not only the verb in the past, but also to add to it time expressions like yesterday, last night, last week, and last month. And also we did answer a couple of these interesting exercises. Here where we said we have a scenario of Steve who went to the snow. It was a very cold weekend for him, and here we have a list of activities, and we learn how to use or change these activities into the past. And also another interesting exercise we did, which is when we're using these pictures that have the subject and the completion of a sentence, we use it and we try to make questions and answer about these pictures. So this is all what we have did in the last lesson about grammar rule, which was very interesting. Now, I would like you please to open your books on page 67. I would like you please to open your books on page 67. On this page, we have a listening exercise, and it will be a very interesting one. Here, what I would like you to do is to listen to the conversation between the two friends. So here we have conversation between two friends, and what I would like you to do is that when you listen to this conversation is to answer these questions. Before you do this, let's read these questions first, and then we start listening. So the first question is, who did Ken go out with? And where did they go? And what did they talk about? And number 4, when did they go out? And number 5, did Ken have a good time? So here we have 5 important questions about this conversation that will happen between two friends. So here we have different strategy. What we need to do here is that we're going to listen to this conversation 3 times. The first one, you only listen. You don't have to do anything. You just listen. The second time, you listen while you have these questions in mind. And before the third time, I'm going to introduce you some of the terms or some of the words, vocabularies that may help you to define or to write your final answers. And then you're going to listen for the third and the last time, and then you start writing down the answers. So now let's begin listening to the conversation between Ken and his friend, and then we can talk further.
I went out with James.
What's he like?
He's boring. He talked all the time. He never stopped.
What did he talk about?
His new car.
Did you go to a nice restaurant?
Yes, we went to Gourmet's, you know, the restaurant near the lake.
What was the food like?
The food was great, but the company was terrible.
Now we have listened for the first time, and now we're going to listen for the second time. And for the second time, I would like you to listen while you have these questions in mind. Okay, so let's begin.
Ken, what did you do on Thursday night?
I went out with James.
What's he like?
He's boring. He talked all the time. He never stopped.
What did he talk about?
His new car.
Did you go to a nice restaurant?
Yes, we went to Gourmet's, you know, the restaurant near the lake.
What was the food like?
The food was great, but the company was terrible.
Very well. So now we have listened to this conversation for the second time, and I'm sure maybe some of you already have the answers and some of you are not. So let's try to highlight some of the words that you listened to in this conversation. And maybe these words will help you to write down your final answers. So we have listened to words like boring. And what do you mean by boring is that something doesn't make you happy, that something makes you frustrated and makes you angry or annoyed. This is what do you mean by boring. Also, the other word we have listened to is company. When you said that I have a great company, it means that you have great friends or great people who will accompany you in a restaurant or in a cafe or in a trip. So this is what they mean by company. Not only this, but also the word terrible. Terrible, it means it's not good. Terrible, it means that, or we use terrible for something that you don't like, you dislike. So this is why we said terrible. For example, this is a terrible company, or this is a terrible place, or a terrible food. It means that you don't like it. So these are some of the words that we have listened in this conversation. So after now, you know the meaning of these words, like boring, it means something makes you frustrated, not interested. And company, it means the people around you or people who go with you. And terrible, it means something that is not good. So after you know the meaning of these verb or these words, now you'll get the chance to listen for the last time or for the final times, and then you can write down your final answers about these questions. So let's listen one more time.
Ken, what did you do on Thursday night?
I went out with James.
What's he like?
He's boring. He talked all the time. He never stopped.
What did he talk about?
His new car.
Did you go to a nice restaurant?
Yes, we went to Gourmet's, you know, the restaurant near the lake.
What was the food like?
The food was great, but the company was terrible.
Very well. So now we have listened to this conversation for the last time. Now it is time to write down the answers of these questions. So let's start with the first question, which is, who did Ken go out with? Who did Ken went out with? So here, or go out with. So here we have a specific person that Ken go out with. Do you remember what the name of that person is? Very good. So the answer will be that he went out with James. He went out with James. James was the person who Ken went out with. So number two, where did they go? Where did they go? So Ken and James went out to a certain place. So do you remember what that place is? Very good. So the answer will be they went to Gourmet's, a restaurant near the lake. They went to Gourmet's, a restaurant near the lake. So Gourmet's is the name of that restaurant. Question number 3. What did they talk about? What did they talk about? So in the conversation, we have listened to the topic that Ken and James both talked about. So do you remember what that thing or what that topic was? Very good. The answer will be yes. They talked about James' new car. They talk about James's new car. And number 4, when did they go out? When? Here we're asking about time. When did they go out? So in this conversation, we have listened to the time of both Ken and James went out with. So do you remember what that time was? Very good. The answer will be they went out on Thursday night. They went out on Thursday night. So number 5, did Ken have a good time? So when we listen to the conversation, we can tell whether Ken had a good time with his friend James or not. So I'm going to ask you now, from listening to this conversation, what do you think? Did Ken have a good time or not? Very good. The answer is no, he didn't. And how can we tell that he didn't have a good time? Because he used words like, for example, boring. It was boring. The food was great, but the company was terrible. So he used these words, which is boring, terrible. So me as a reader or as a listener to this conversation, I can tell that he didn't have a good time. He didn't enjoy his time. So here we have the answer to these questions. The first one, who did Ken go out with? He went out with James. And number 2, where did they go? They went to Gourmet's, a restaurant near the lake. And number 3, what did they talk about? They talk about James's new car. And number 4, when did they go out? They went out on Thursday night. And number 5, did Ken have a good time? No, he didn't, because he used the words like boring and terrible. Now, let us move on to the second part, or the other part of our lesson today, which is pronunciation. So here we're going to listen to the pronunciation of the past tense endings, and then we're going to practice it. So here we have different words that ends in ed in the past, but the pronunciation between each of these verbs is different. So let's listen to this verb, and then I'm going to highlight how can we pronounce each of them. So the first list here we have with this verb, liked, worked, washed. We usually pronounce the ending of this verb with the sound ta. With the sound ta. For example, we say liked, liked. Also worked, worked. And here washed, washed. For example, when we have sentence like this, Paul worked in the morning. Paul worked in the morning. So for these verbs, we usually pronounce the ending of them in a ta sound. So repeat after me. Liked, liked. Worked, worked. Washed, washed. So here we have a slightly T that is pronounced at the end of these verbs. So the other list we have is we pronounce the ending of this verb with the D sound. For example, blade, blade. studied, studied, cleaned, cleaned. So when we have sentence like this, Alan studied French. Alan studied French. So here with these verbs, we pronounce the ending of it in D sound. And also the last list of our verbs today, here we pronounce it with D, but a more a lighter one. For example, wanted, wanted, repeat after me, wanted. Needed, needed, needed. Visited, visited. So when we have sentence like this, we needed some help. We needed some help. So maybe we can see from the look that each of them ends with ed, but the pronunciation is different, and this is why we need to practice more on the pronunciation of these verbs, because as of these verbs, some of them has two syllables, like wanted here, we pronounce it like this, wanted, wanted. But some of them has only one syllable, like worked, we pronounce it as worked, worked. So this is a very important thing to pay attention to. Before we finish, don't forget to check out on your workbook on pages 120 and 121 for more practices with the simple past tense. And now we have reached the end of our lesson. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.